There are no human words to describe the love of God. There are no human words to describe the experience I had with God. There was only love. I was love. There was only bliss consciousness, which is euphoric happiness. And there was peace. Prayer is talking to God. Meditation is listening to God. Even when I had COVID a few years ago, it wasn't until I went into gratitude that the energy shifted.
Hello, spiritual friends, and welcome to another episode of Life Ascended, where we focus on tapping into our divine potential every day. And I'm so excited to bring a beautiful guest on the show today. You're going to love, love, love her. And today we have Reverend LisaMarie Boncek. She is a healer, teacher, and near-death experiencer dedicated to awakening the divine within, founder of Perfect Health and Balance. She blends spiritual insight with ancient healing practices like Ayurveda, Reiki, yoga, and intuitive energy work. A licensed ordained minister in New York and Connecticut, LisaMarie has shared her powerful story and teachings internationally, including with IANS, and hosts the Larger Than Life Productions podcast. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
I'm thrilled, Cynthia. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm excited about this.
Yes, we love connecting through our podcast. So we need to talk about the book that we are sharing together, which is The Ways to God. And you are a co-author, and this book just came out. So let's talk a little bit about your chapter and why you decided to do this book, and let's start there.
Oh, wow. Well, as you know, we got the message. We all got the message that we were channeled to do this book,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So I got that message. You know, you're always apprehensive when somebody contacts you with things like this. So anyway, long story short, when I got the message and I spoke to the publisher, Amera, um, I said, well, what's the title of the book? The Ways to God. It just immediately resonated with me. And I knew that I was supposed to be a part of this book. I just knew. And in my chapter, I talk about my two near-death experiences that happened consecutively on Easter weekend, ironically, when I
Oh,
had
wow.
an incredible healing from Jesus and Archangel Michael and my higher self. The higher self is your soul. And my higher self was assisting the divine beings that were with me in my own healing. I was
Wow.
just as powerful as those divine beings, and which was a shock to me, Then I
Yeah.
ever had a conversation with God. So I talk about that, and I talk about being one with God. I always say all the religions start with somebody that has had a mystical experience. And I talk about this in my chapter. Jesus went into the desert for 41 days before he can say, I and the Father are one. And that's what I experienced in my NDEs. I
Hmm.
was a piece of the creator, the I am,
Hmm.
source. I was fit, which was also another surprise because I always thought this was a separate thing, a separate entity, and I felt like God was the whole, like a pie, and I was a slice of that pie, and that was something that I found out. And God said to me, he said, called me LisaMarie, and he said, it's in my time, LisaMarie, not yours.
Oh my gosh, it's
Yeah,
hilarious.
I knew it. Yeah, I knew what he was talking about. Yeah, it was a male voice for me. It was a male voice, an authoritative voice, somebody that you know that knows everything about you, every thought in your head, your purpose, why you're here, when you're not going to be here anymore. That was God. And God is love, and it's not a love that we have here. It's like, say, maybe the love for your children times 50,000. There are no human words to describe the love of God. There are no human words to describe the experience I had with God and Jesus and Archangel Michael. They were so respectful to me. That was
Wow.
one thing I noticed. It
Yeah.
was almost like they respect us because we are on a difficult journey because we're still here. We're
Yeah.
here
Right.
still. So, they're relieved, they're enlightened. And as soon as I left my body, I was instantly turned into love. I instantly was in gratitude. Not, I mean, I say for the suffering, if I had if I had an easy life and never went through any type of suffering, I'd still be in gratitude for suffering to be in a body. Because
Mm.
once I left my body, I was expanded consciousness. I was huge. I was free. I was enlightened. I was
Woo!
bliss consciousness. I was laughing constantly,
I bet.
so I was free. And if I'd been given a choice, which I wasn't, and I'm sure they know I would have jumped to the chance to leave this earth. I wasn't given a chance. I was shoved back in my body, but I
Mm.
was granted, and I talk about all of this in the chapter.
Nice.
Um, I was granted to see my future. I didn't have like a regular life review, traditional life review. I had a future life review. So I
Mm.
saw myself as a speaker, a spiritual speaker and motivational speaker in my future. And I knew that what they were showing me was the truth because there's only truth on the other side and in our true self form.
Yeah.
So I knew, even though I was very ill for a long time, I knew that somehow was going to happen. I didn't know
Mm.
when. They showed me a clip in time, but they didn't show me all the events that were going to lead up to that particular time.
Yeah.
I had a whole career change.
Oh yeah,
I mean, a whole life
tell
change.
us about that because it's interesting. I'm always curious as to what leads up to a near-death experience because it's
I
usually like a
think,
major redirect.
right. Mine is a little different because most people, that is their awakening.
Right.
They've never been spiritual. They've never meditated. That's
Yes.
the popular story.
Right.
But I was already highly spiritual, speaking a different language than most people. I'd been meditating already for 30 years,
Hmm.
doing TM, Transcendental Meditation, the advanced form, the CIDDIS program, and that's SIDDHIS. So I was already evolved, awakened, and all that. It was just when I'd gotten Lyme disease. Got bit by the tick, and my
Hmm.
world came down so fast. And then what caused my near death experiences was I wasn't producing cortisol. I was having major problems with my adrenal glands because of the massive infection. It goes to your brain. It just messes with your organs. And so I was having
Hmm.
adrenal gland problems, wasn't producing cortisol, it's deadly. So
Hmm.
I could never get these numbers up, even with all my knowledge, with being an Ayurvedic practitioner. It was a struggle.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
until the NDEs happened, and then Jesus said to me that, they did that healing, and he said that, you're going to be healed of everything. And
Wow.
your blood work is going to finally change. You're going to see different numbers. Your hair was going to grow back. You
Yeah.
know,
Your hair
your
looks
hair
great.
was going to grow back. He told me because I'd lost it so many times.
Hmm.
And we talked about that, just little things that they're hearing everything. They know everything, all our struggles, all of our thoughts. And while I was watching my future, I noticed, first of all, I sounded so intelligent and I was laughing about it.
Uh-huh.
When you're looking from a different angle,
Yeah.
it's very interesting.
Yeah, for
So I
sure.
saw the right side of me and the back side of me. They didn't show me, I didn't see the front.
Yeah.
So I noticed everything, what I was wearing. I was wearing a pair of pants that I've had for many years that I could only wear it if I'm 120 pounds. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh God, I'm going to be thin again. These are the things you think of, when I'm
Sure.
outside of my body, your brain is still thinking. So
Mm.
some NDEers may say, you will hear them say they lost their identity.
Yeah.
And so I say to them, did you really lose your identity, or were you your best self? There's a
Mm.
difference.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
and they go, yeah, that's more accurate, because I was my best self. Why? Because I was void of all negative emotions. There's
Mm.
no worry. You're living in the now. There is no time on the other side.
Yeah.
You're just being. You're
Right.
being, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
there was only love. I was love. There was only bliss consciousness, which is euphoric happiness. And there was peace. And it's a peace like you can't believe. You're
Mm.
detached even from the earth or anything. You're
Mm.
freed. There's no worries. You
Yeah.
understand it all. You
Mm.
understand everything.
Yeah.
Everything now, there's no more secrets, right?
Uh-huh.
So I was my best self. I was enlightened. It's enlightenment.
Mm.
Enlightenment means, you're one with God. You're one
Yeah.
with everything.
Wow. Yeah.
You're 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 one with everything. Even when I came back for 14 days, I wasn't totally integrated into my body, my soul.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh my God. I said, oh, I need to remain like this. I need to remain like this
Mm-hmm.
because I was walking around with just love. So you
Yeah.
could have said anything to me, derogatory or whatever, and it wouldn't even touch me. And I
Mm.
would respond with an all knowing and a
Mm.
love that would just melt that situation. Dogs
Right.
were running up to me, animals were following me. It was amazing. 14 days, and I was getting downloads and
Mm.
video clips clear as day in like here, like my mind's eye, I would call
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah.
And I kept seeing my future, and I kept seeing my future, and I kept seeing myself speaking. And I said, I sound just like Wayne Dyer.
Oh,
And
interesting.
ironically, yeah, interesting. And
Yeah.
ironically, last year, we get these synchronicities. We get these so much changes after you've been out of your body. You end up with,
Mhm.
I have healing abilities and heightened intuition and channeling from the divine. So last year, things just appear on my phone, like
Mm-hmm.
out of nowhere. And a video from Wayne Dyer shows up. And I listened for about half a minute and I said, oh my God, he sounds just like me. He's saying my words. He's using my words. Even he came before me,
That's hilarious.
but he was sounded just like me, which
Yeah.
made me go back to the experience
Mm-hmm.
and what I saw in my future when I was saying, oh my God, I sound just like Wayne Dyer.
Yeah.
It was just something that I noticed, and I think maybe in the future it's gonna mean something,
Yeah, it's funny you
you know.
mentioned Wayne Dyer because I meditated one night and it was when I was writing my last book, The Mojo of Multidimensional Manifesting. And
Love it.
he came into that meditation and he had never come in before. And I'm just like, oh, this is interesting. And he's like, I can help you write your book. And I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting because he was obviously in his lifetime, he was a super successful writer. And
Yeah.
so I said, okay, yeah, I welcome that assistance. And he's like, and you're going to see evidence of this. And then this is what I was really excited about. And the evidence was, he's like, you're going to see some unusual birds. And that was like the exact phraseology, unusual birds. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. Not my normal kind of response. And it was within like a day or two. I was at a party and the hostess had these little napkins and they were the most unusual birds that had like these little weird funny hats on them and they were just like so cute and adorable. And I'm like, wow, those are the unusual birds. It was the sign. So yeah, it
Yeah,
was
because
fun.
it can come in any form. You could see a
Yeah.
sticker on the floor. It can come, and
Yeah.
I've got these beautiful birds on my porch now that made babies
Yeah.
and are here. And I just love that.
Yeah.
Because that's all about new beginnings.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to tell you one other thing. I don't know if you've read the manuscript of The Ways to God yet, but in there are at least two or three quotes from Wayne Dyer.
Yes, yes, I noticed that.
I was like, I think something's happening here. Something's
Yes.
happening here.
Yes, we apparently have a cosmic Wayne Dyer connection. That's what I'm sensing.
Yes.
He hasn't
Yes.
stopped writing. He's still writing
Yeah, right.
with us.
Hey, listen, if we can channel him, for
Yeah,
our benefit to keep helping people,
sure.
we're living in what feels like a hopeless world. The last 5 years have been really tough.
Yeah, for sure. Very
And we don't
difficult.
know how long that's going to continue. There's been a lot of separation of people. I mean, I'm counseling my clients and families that are choosing politics over love. I mean, it's been a
So
real
sad.
upheaval
Yeah, so
in the
sad.
world. And it's so important for this ascension. I'm looking at the word ascension on the screen on your end, Ascension 17. But for
Yeah.
ascension to happen and people to awaken. This isn't any woo woo thing. It's about awakening to who you really are, us as spiritual beings that are having this temporary human experience. That's the name of my chapter. We are
Mm,
spiritual beings having a human experience because
yeah.
that's what it is. It's a matter of, and for some reason, we're meant to forget who we really are. And because we wouldn't be able to experience the drama and all the negative emotions of going through the 5 stages of grief, for
Mm,
example.
yeah.
You wouldn't be able to experience that, and just all the different things that we came here to learn and experience. So, but I'm hopeful that people are going to start, and this is what this book is all about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in the book
Exactly.
has had an incredible experience to talk about, to let everybody know, to give hope. Um,
For sure.
I just dealt with a woman that lost her newborn child,
Oof.
magnanimous loss. And as I was doing my healing on her, uh, I almost blew over. An energy came in the room. It was the energy of her child, the
Oh,
spirit of her
wow.
child.
Wow.
It almost blew me over. That's how powerful it was. This
Mm,
child, just like in my NDE, how I assisted Archangel Michael and Jesus with my healing, that baby's energy, who was very evolved, by the way,
yeah.
came in to assist me in the healing for his mother.
Oh my gosh, that's so
You
amazing.
can't make this stuff up. And she is still coming to me. And the last time I saw her a couple of weeks ago, she looks like a different person.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
much healing. She's transformed.
that's so awesome. Yeah.
Right. Once you tap in, once you trust the divine plan, this is my secret to tell everybody.
Yes.
There's a divine plan. And because I was privileged to see my future, I sit back and I let it all happen. I don't do much.
Mm-hmm.
It just comes to me.
Yeah.
People walk into my office, we're here now, it just comes.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about how much free will I have, and maybe it's the
Uh-huh.
little things that are free will, but the big stuff, a lot of it is planned.
I agree.
So
Yeah, I definitely see it
do
that
you
way
agree with
too.
that?
Well, yeah, from my background in hand analysis, we have our fingerprints, and I read that as the soul imprint. And so yeah, we totally come in with a plan. And so a lot of it
Right,
we decide before we come in, I believe. And I do
right.
think we have some free will, but yeah, but why wouldn't we want to
Is
align
it
with what our soul wants for us? You know?
exactly? And that's why it's so important to listen to, if I put it in layman's terms instead of higher self, listen to that gut feeling.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the gut feeling. It's a
Yes.
warning sign. It's a passion that's within you. Like when I was in my 20s, I was being drawn to Edgar Casey's books.
Yeah.
Edgar Casey is the sleeping prophet. I am now a medical intuitive.
Yeah.
So, but that's years and years later. But why was I being drawn and so fascinated with his book? So you have to follow
Yeah.
that, those synchronicities, those little things that happen in your life. You like, for instance, you think of a friend you haven't heard from in years. You think of her or him, 5 minutes later, the phone rings, it's them,
Yeah, absolutely.
right?
Happens all the
Those are the
time.
things Those are the things to pay attention to. And I talk about in my chapter about raising consciousness.
Hmm.
We have a direct link to source, God. We just have to tap into that. I do that with meditation. I go and prayer is talking to God. Meditation is listening to God. You
Hmm.
go within into that space of love, into your higher self, where that stillness is. And that's where you connect to nature, where you connect to God, and you'll start resonating with that. And then you could start navigating your life a lot better, in a more positive way, in a more relaxed way, and a more creative way, because meditation makes you more creative. It gives you energy, it boosts your hormones.
I agree. Yeah,
It gives
totally.
mental clarity instead
Yeah.
of brain fog.
Meditation is definitely one of the number one things I recommend for people too. It's so life-changing.
It
Yeah.
creates bliss. You
Yeah.
want to be laughing all the time. You
Yes.
don't want to take life too seriously. I mean, even Jesus said to me, because I didn't tell you this part, I noticed I was saying a few off-colored words. Did I tell you that yet? I don't think I
No,
did.
no, you didn't tell
So
me.
they weren't bad words, but for me, they were bad. So he said to me, I said, "What's up with that?" I said, "What's up with that? That's not like me." Because everything I saw I knew was the truth, but that was kind of strange for me. So
Uh-huh.
he started laughing. They're in bliss conscious. They're in bliss consciousness. They're not serious up there.
Oh,
They're
no, they're
laughing at
not.
everything. So he said to me, he said, "You're too pure." Now, here I meditated for 30 years to get Christ consciousness, bliss consciousness. For him to tell me, "You're too pure. You need to be able to relate to the people on earth," were the exact words. And I mentioned this in the chapter.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
like
you
the
need to be able
laughing,
to relate.
yeah, the
So
laughing Buddha is what
is
I
that
think of.
interesting?
Yeah.
So I said, I don't want to relate to the people on earth. So,
Screw
so,
that.
right. So then he said to me something very profound. You came here to learn compassion. You
Mm,
came here to learn compassion. What does that tell you? I decided that way before I went into a baby body, right? You
yeah.
came here to learn compassion. Now, had I not done all that suffering, he knew I
Hmm.
was upset because I was the epitome of health and I'd worked so hard at that. And then for this thing to take me down overnight, he
Yeah.
knew I was upset. They know everything. And that's why I think they showed me my future. So I
Mm,
could see that it was going to make this whole turnaround. And when he said, I came here to learn compassion and to get to the level that I'm at right now is so deep, to be able to help the young woman that lost her newborn child, to relate to that suffering, to help the woman that comes in, the people that come in with cancer, that have chronic pain and they have chronic fatigue from radiation. I
yeah.
know that fatigue, I experienced it, and I know how to get rid of the fatigue. I've got a wonderful Ayurvedic treatment called Shirodhara that pours warm oil on the forehead, goes into the third eye spiritual center where the pineal gland is, which activates consciousness, raises consciousness, it balances cortisol. Great
Mm,
for postpartum, great for depression, addictions, so many things. Insomnia, cured, one or two treatments, that's all you need.
mm,
So, this treatment I had the treatment many years ago. I used to get it all the time. That was when Buddha appeared to me
Mm.
right here, clear as day. He had gold skin, antique gold skin, and amber, sparkly amber colored eyes, almond shaped. And he didn't say anything. I think he was just appearing to me to see if I could see him. You know,
Mm. Yeah.
maybe he's one of my guides because I was interested
Mhm.
in Ayurveda and the Indian culture. And I mentioned that
Mhm.
in the chapter about my spiritually transformative experiences that I had way before the NDEs. But the NDEs blew everything out of the water
Yeah, I'm
because
sure.
now,
Mm.
right, I was in my spirit form. I had all these, I've been touched by spirits. All beautiful, beautiful encounters with the divine for many years since I was a child. But the leaving my body, being open to the truth, seeing the other side, of course, meeting the divine beings. And I'm kind of like matter of fact about it because for me, it was just like normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to explain, but I'm very matter
Mhm.
of fact about it because it feels like, well, that's normal, you know?
Right.
But to have the interaction with God that I had and
Mm.
the little conversation we had and the love I felt from God. Oh, and this is what the whole book is about, that we are one. On the other side, we are one collective consciousness. So that being said, there's no division. So when you go to heaven, it's not like Catholics go, there's not a sign that says Catholics go this way and Jews go that way and the
Uh-huh.
Protestants go this way, the Hindus go that
Yeah,
way.
no, it doesn't work
It's
like
not like
that.
that. There's nobody better than anybody else, and that's what the point of the book is all about. We are
Exactly.
all one collective consciousness, and this is just one big joke.
So go laugh and have fun, everybody.
Don't take life seriously because we don't die. So guess what? Oh, and I had a lot of loss in my life. That's probably one of my lessons to be here. I had a lot of loss, but the biggest loss was to lose my own health. That was my
Mm.
biggest loss, and that was the most difficult because you just lose control. Don't have a lot of control
Yeah,
when, you can't do anything. And I always
absolutely.
wanted to help people. I was always helping people, and I was upset, but I know, and I want everybody else to know this. Even if you're sick, even if you're in a wheelchair, even if whatever, your soul is even higher and on a greater mission than somebody else that has some other type of life. So even in my worst times, my words were helping people. People were learning from my suffering.
For sure.
You
Yeah.
could be going through something, cancer or
Mhm.
whatever, and your family and everybody around you are learning something from that. They may become more spiritual because
Mm.
of your experiences. They may just all of a sudden start praying. They never prayed in their life. Now they want their friend to be well.
Yeah.
And now they start praying. You raise the
Mm.
vibration a little bit.
Right. So that leads to something that I talk about a lot with people is that they have a lot more power than they realize.
Manifestations. So a podcast I just came off was about manifesting.
Yeah.
We last year, I don't like to tell all the details about this, but last year at this time, I kept saying, I have a lot of energy for my age, and I kept saying with conviction and a knowing as fact, nobody's going to be able to keep up with me but a 30-year-old. Nobody's going to be able to keep up with me but a 30-year-old. No, I kept saying this. I was talking to my friends about this, and I
Mm.
manifested something I didn't mean to manifest. So I had all these 30-year-olds coming into my life, and it was like, what is going on? Right?
Uh-huh.
Well, and it happened all in one month. It was like the month of June last year.
That's
And I was
hilarious.
like, oh my God, what is going everywhere I went? And it could be one time I was going to a client's house and I wanted to pull over to look at the GPS directions a little bit better. And I couldn't find the right spot. So the first one, no good. No, that's not good. And it was the third spot that was like a kind of a, what do you call that? Look over a scenic spot over the river or something like
Yeah,
that.
scenic
And
overlook.
I met, and a scenic overlook. And there was this person right there came up to my vehicle. I had my business sign on a magnet on my truck and came talking to me. So it can happen, in my life. I know it just happens anywhere in a store, in a restaurant, and anywhere. It just
Mm-hmm.
comes. When
Yeah.
the divine is doing its work, it is going to come. You don't have to go searching for it.
Yeah.
So, long story short, when I realized, because I had the epiphany one day, oh my God, I have created this. And
Mm.
maybe the divine beings are telling me this is an example of how you do it
Yeah, exactly.
with the knowing, without a
Mm-hmm.
doubt,
Yes.
without a doubt.
Right.
And I made that happen. And as soon as I came to the epiphany and realized that I had created that, it all stopped,
Oh,
never to
interesting.
happen again.
Oh, interesting.
Very interesting. And I
Yeah.
realized that what I was saying, thoughts create things, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to think negative all day, you will
Mhm.
have a negative day. I hear so many
Absolutely.
people saying, oh, it's one of those days, right? It's one of
Hmm.
those days. It's one of those days. Well, you are creating, it could start out bad,
Yeah.
but
Right.
you can turn it around by your words and having, number
Hmm.
one, gratitude is
Yes.
a very important word to know. Even
Hmm.
when I had COVID a few years ago, it wasn't until I went into gratitude that the energy shifted
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I started getting better. And then I started remembering things that I used in the past that worked for me when I was ill,
Yeah.
like bone broth and
Hmm.
chicken bone
Yeah.
broth, things like that,
Right. Because
that can make you come back
you're
to life.
focusing on that positive. So yeah, when you start to switch it around, things will
Right,
reflect differently. Absolutely.
right, right. I am still looking for a new office right now. I've decided to stop thinking about it, but I've made my vision board.
Yes. I
I'm
love those. Yes.
visualizing the place. I
Mhm.
am looking at all these windows and French doors and hardwood floors.
Yeah,
I'm
there you go.
envisioning my sacred space of independence, of freedom,
Mm,
privacy for my business because it's so sacred.
yeah,
And I know, and I've just been busy with so many things with conferences and the book, and it was
sure.
and weddings. So I had to concentrate on writing the book, writing wedding ceremonies. So all that stuff
Mm,
was had to happen. And I think
hmm.
this office is just gonna come when I have a little more time, because
It
that's gonna
will.
be a lot of work
Yeah,
when it comes.
right. It'll be perfect. So, okay, well, this has been such a great conversation. So appreciating you. Oh my gosh, we could talk all day, no question about that.
All
Yeah, but let's wrap up with just how do people work with you? Do you work with people remotely?
I do.
All of that information would be great.
My website is perfecthealthandbalance.com. I do remote healings. I can scan somebody's body, see what's wrong, talk to them about it. I do spiritual counseling. And if somebody doesn't know what that is, or sometimes they don't know what they need or want, then I'll say, "Do you need guidance?" And they said, "Yes, I need guidance." So I'm just trying to use simpler terms for people to understand. So they can contact me on Facebook, Facebook Messenger. I'm under Reverend LisaMarie Boncek, REV, and my website, perfecthealthandbalance.com. Great
Okay.
to be here with you,
Yeah.
Cynthia.
So great to get to know you better. And everybody, just so you know, you can
Yeah.
order the book, The Ways to God, on
Yeah.
Amazon. So just go to Amazon.com. It's available, and you can read her chapter and my chapter as well, and all the wonderful, beautiful authors. Every
Hmm.
single one of them is just has so much wisdom to share. So
Yeah.
thank you for being here. And we love your input for the show. If there's a topic you want to hear more about, or if there's something that you just are dying to hear about, right? Dying. We're not dying, of course, we're
No pun
eternal.
intended.
Yeah, exactly. Please let us know. And please share the show with those that you love so that we can spread the word. And everybody, let's ascend together and have a beautiful day, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Life Ascended, where you can discover your divine potential every day. Please show your support by tuning in, following, sharing your comments, and inviting others to listen. Take it further by visiting Ascension17.com for deeper spiritual growth, guidance, programs, and products.